What is up, guys? Rick here with a new episode of Fan-Made Exotics, the only series that lets you submit your Destiny exotic idea and have a realistic concept art be made for it. Now guys, today we have an absolutely huge announcement to make. We are bringing on a new artist, Michael Frost, also known as Rageblade in his DeviantArt, which of course will be linked in the description down below. He has made some absolutely amazing looking exotic concepts. He's just doing this for fun. He was even sometimes taking the ideas from our comment section and again just, showing his love for Destiny, making these incredible looking exotic concepts. So I contacted him and said, hey, if you're gonna do this for fun, why not do this officially? And he was thrilled to hop on to the team. So now we've got Michael and Benjamin. Of course, Benjamin isn't going anywhere, such a huge part of this series, but both of them are going to be working and making your guys' exotic ideas into not quite reality, but pretty damn close. So guys, let's say a big hello and a thank you to Michael for joining in on the team by commenting down below, smashing that like button, and sharing this video. Let's give Michael the warm welcome he deserves. And guys, the first two of the 5 featured exotics will be from Michael, with the last 3 being Benjamin Radiman. Okay, so now let's get into the actual nitty-gritty of this video. I'm sure if you're a first-time watcher of this series, you're probably like, what is going on? This is, again, the only series where you can submit your exotic idea. All you need to do to submit any Destiny exotic idea, that's for weapons, armor, ghost shells, artifacts, whatever, just leave it in the comment section of this video. Now when you're making your comment, be sure to include a description of your exotic, anything that would help the artist out if they choose your idea. Furthermore, make sure to include other non-exotic perks and stats. We don't necessarily go over them, but it shows that you've given thought into your creation. Furthermore, if you plan to submit an exotic idea, make sure you're submitting it on the newest video. If there's a newer video than this one, an annotation will pop up right now leading you to it. And so guys, let's get started by going over the 5 featured exotics that all came from the comment section of the last Fan-Made Exotics video. Now the first exotic concept we're going over today is the Presence of Crota, exotic heavy fusion rifle by Groundsword 40. I love this concept because its exotic perk is very simplistic, but also a great idea for how to introduce something like a heavy fusion rifle, aside from, of course, the sleeper simulant. The exotic perk is called Oversoul, and what it does is that the longer you hold the trigger, the more damage this gun will deal. So it will replace the usual firing mechanism of fusion rifles where you hold the trigger and if you let it go, nothing happens. You have to hold it long enough to get that proper fusion rifle shot. But this gun will have a different firing mechanism. You can hold the trigger and then immediately let it go, and this weapon will fire a very fast but a very weak fusion rifle shot. Or you can hold the trigger extremely long, charge this weapon up a ton, let it go, and it will just deal a massive amount of damage. And you can, because this weapon is a heavy weapon, of course, ammo is so scarce, you can have extremely powerful heavy weapons in PvP, and they aren't necessarily overpowered because, again, of the ammo limitations. You can have this weapon doing an absolutely crap ton of damage. Even a medium charge could be doing phenomenal damage, and then a long charge is just like, killing ogres in one shot and stuff. I would love to see something like this introduced into Destiny, and in fact, the basis of the idea of having that kind of firing mechanism where it's up to you how long you charge it, could be the basis of an entirely new heavy weapon gun type, perhaps to be introduced in Destiny 2. Here's hoping. Now moving on, next we have the Atheon's Gift, exotic hand cannon concept by ControllaSkylz. This weapon has a few unique perks. Firstly, it has the intrinsic perk Atheon's Nemesis. This weapon does bonus damage against Vex, a decently useful PvE ability that I wish was on more guns, frankly. Next, we have a really really interesting exotic perk. It's called Atheon's Gift. And what it does is it replaces your super. So whatever subclass you're using, your current super, whether it be the Stormcaller, Warlock, whether it be, the Fist of Havoc, whatever, it's replaced with a new super due to the Atheon's Gift exotic perk. Now what this new super does is it lets you teleport between timelines. So essentially when you activate your super and this new different Atheon's Gift super activates, you're going to be unable to be damaged for about 3 seconds. So you're invincible, like enemies can't see you, they can't hit you, you teleport between timelines. Now I would also assume that you can't shoot enemies back. You can use this, you can get out of trouble, you can get behind the enemies without them knowing like where you are, what you've done, anything like that. So that is a pretty useful, I don't think it's blatantly overpowered, especially if you're replacing a super, for goodness sakes. You're giving up a Fist of Havoc, you're giving up being able to revive and stuff like that. Those are all very, very powerful abilities, and so to replace it, you can replace it with a very powerful ability. But I think the concept, the idea of having an exotic weapon or even armor piece that would change your super, I think that's pretty cool, and I think that's an area of design and development that Bungie hasn't looked into far enough. There's already certain things that affect your supers universally in some ways. There's stuff that takes away your super, like the Memory of Fellwinter. There's stuff that gives you bonuses for not using your super, for keeping it charged. So it'd be very interesting to see another way of doing that, which is just replacing your super with something completely different. In any event, very unique and cool idea, and there's a variety of scenarios where becoming basically invincible for 3 to 4 seconds would be very, very useful. Now moving on, we have The Gentleman, exotic sidearm concept by Gabrieloid Studios. Now you may be noticing some similarities to the Jade Rabbit. That's because this sidearm is from the Daito Foundry, which the Jade Rabbit is as well. And I would love to see foundries like that expanded within Destiny. It's kind of silly that we only have, 3 properly expanded foundries. In any event, this weapon has a few unique perks. Firstly, the exotic perk Pocket Watch. Aiming down sights grants a bonus to rate of fire and range. Alright, decently useful. Increase to rate of fire in a sidearm where you're manually pressing the trigger isn't the worst thing in the world. It's definitely powerful, but it's nothing to be concerned about, I don't think. It also has another exotic perk, Look at the Time. When crouching, obtain greater target acquisition. And this comes with a hidden perk. I don't think it's intrinsic. It says hidden perk, Take a Knee. So that's just going to be a native perk that you automatically get for this weapon. So it's a sidearm that when you ADS, you get a faster rate of fire and range. Already useful. And I'm thinking PvP useful especially. If you enjoy utilizing sidearms in PvP, having one that has, better rate of fire and range is going to be like a huge boon to you. So I think a lot of people would definitely look in it for those scenarios. But also the crouching thing. People have been trying for a long time to make crouching work in Destiny, but it's such a momentum and movement based game that very few people take the time to crouch. But if you're getting all these substantial bonuses, maybe you can actually take your time, crouch, get these bonuses, take down enemy, and keep moving on. It's an interesting idea nonetheless. Next up, we have the Knight's Honor, exotic sword concept by Orion Hernandez. Now this takes a little bit of explaining. It's designed around the principle of half swording, which is an actual fighting technique utilized in the Middle Ages, because when you're a knight and you're in full plate mail, especially around your hands, like they have like full plate mail hands, you can grab your sword by its blade and it won't do anything to you. I mean, you have a full plate mail glove, and you can utilize this for different fighting techniques, and they were often utilized in the Middle Ages. You'd grab your sword and you kind of utilize that to have a better thrust through the enemy's plate mail. You could grab your blade and then use the pommel to smash down on your opponent and do massive blows, and this weapon is designed around that via Destiny. So the inherent perk is half swording, where you grab the blade and you deal that precision strike via thrusting your sword. Now this is very interesting because essentially it's saying we're going to slow down your sword attack speed. So instead of just a normal slash like every exotic sword right now, you would do a thrust. So how would that make sense for Destiny? Well, it's a simple trade-off. You're slowing down your attack speed, but you'd be doing much more damage on those thrusts. So do you want to do a ton of damage with your attack, or do you want to attack more often? That's a pretty interesting decision that I'm sure, different people would pick different answers for, and I think that's a great way to diversify melee weapons. We next have the exotic perk Forgotten Techniques, where you grab your sword by its blade and you do an overhead strike with the pommel hitting your enemy with great force. This would of course be, your special activated attack with your exotic sword, just like if you're using the raise lighter, the uppercut, it would be the same thing, but with this you do a pommel smash and it would just deal a ton of damage, especially against yellow health armored targets. So a pretty cool idea, a great way to diversify melee weapons, and this could see a lot of play in PvE. You want your initial melee attacks to do a lot of damage. You want to be able to take down, maybe knights in a single strike, but also the fact that you're doing more damage and swinging less means that you're conserving more heavy ammunition. So that is a very attractive feature to utilize this weapon. And moving on, the last exotic concept we're going over today is quite the spicy one. It's the Kamikaze exotic rocket launcher concept by Meta Breakers. So of course, this is modeled after the old school RPGs, and it has some very interesting perks. Firstly, of course, this would have a maximum blast radius with very low velocity. Its first exotic perk is Kamikaze. You do not take damage from your own rockets. My gosh, I would need that perk like every second of my life. I blow myself up way too much. In any event, kills give you increased recovery, armor, and agility for 5 seconds. Increased agility when holding this weapon. The second exotic perk is Kaboom. The rocket has an increased blast radius, and anything looking at the direct blast besides you will be blinded for a short amount of time. Not as effective as the Titan flashbang grenades, but a little bit of effect to just kind of disorient them slightly. So this would be the perfect weapon for an extremely aggressive player, someone who just wants to get right in everyone's face and just blast the hell out of them. This I'm sure would get some play in PvP. It definitely has some power potential, especially that it increases your agility. It lets you run up to the enemies, get right in their faces without them maybe noticing or expecting you, and then just blowing them all to shreds. But I also see this seeing a ton of use in PvE. Being able to shoot this rocket at your feet and kill all the enemies around you is incredibly useful. It's kind of like a Fist of Havoc, to be honest, but in rocket launcher form. Usually you can't shoot a rocket launcher in your feet. Well, you can, it'll do a okay Fist of Havoc impression, but you'll die. But obviously the Kamikaze perk will negate this. Definitely a fun and interesting idea. Alright guys, now that's gonna wrap up our 5 featured exotics. Let's talk about some tips for getting selected. Firstly, try to make sure your idea is self-regulated and balanced. If you get a kill and immediately get an overshield, that's likely going to be a little bit too much in PvP. Moving on from there, make sure that your idea isn't overly complicated. Make sure it doesn't have paragraphs and paragraphs explaining what it does. If you have, every single perk being unique, being exotic, and it would take me 10 minutes to explain it, you're probably not going to get chosen. Aside from that, try to ensure that your idea is realistic for Destiny. Getting a kill and turning into a bear or a dragon sounds cool, and it would be cool, but Bungie is never going to introduce anything like that. But with all that being said, really don't be afraid to break the traditional gun types. Don't think you have to make an auto rifle or a pulse rifle. You can make SMGs. I mean, we saw a heavy fusion rifle today. Don't be afraid to experiment outside of what is the norm in Destiny. And guys, the last thing we're going to do is shout out all of the different exotic creations that were made since last episode. Firstly, we have the Yolder's Plague exotic Titan helmet concept by Walrus Pillow. After that, we have the Radiant Saviors exotic Warlock Gauntlets concept by Shadow Untold. Next, we have the Fair Maiden exotic Scout Rifle concept by Demontri. After that, we have the Old Alaskan Elephant Gun concept by Dusty P9. Moving on from there, we have the Safe Haven exotic auto rifle concept by ZEROGEO. Next, we have the Lord Sha'ax exotic shotgun axe concept by KingKapooya. Moving on, we have the Calamity exotic auto rifle concept by ColonelFLAKES. Next, we have the Dragon Shot exotic shotgun concept by Ninjaman889. And lastly, we have the Red Jack exotic shotgun concept by Skrimic Gaming. Alright guys, now that's gonna wrap up this episode of Fan-Made Exotics. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you want to see more Destiny content from me and don't want to miss out on the next episode of Fan-Made Exotics, make sure to slap that subscribe button and especially press the bell beside subscribe if you actually want to be notified of new uploads. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That is linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good day.